the reason why of Wonderwood is, again, creating a safe and beautiful place where people go home better than in the way they arrived.
Mm.
And so that's about being more connected with the people they love, feeling more brave, really relaxed, and just also more connected to the deepest selves.
Welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast, where we discuss the latest trends and challenges facing the attractions industry today.
We chat with some of the top leaders in the field and provide resources that will help develop your career in this great industry.
I am Josh Liebman. I am obsessed with the guest experience and helping attractions make that their top priority for success.
And I'm Matt Heller. I am passionate about organizational effectiveness, leadership development, and employee engagement.
Now sit upright, hold on tight, and get ready for the Attraction Pros podcast.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going fantastically, Josh. How are you?
Good. Got that Doppler effect in full swing today.
Exactly.
For those watching on video, they saw you moving back and forth there.
Maybe a little 3D action.
Yeah, there you go. Put your glasses on,
Right?
I got a question for you.
Bring it.
Have you ever wanted to open your own park?
Yes, I have. Obviously, I never have done it, but yes, what's that?
Yet?
Yes, I've had that desire to imagine and open, my own entity, whatever that might look like. Have you?
Oh, absolutely. I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks filled. I don't think I've contributed much to them in the last 14, 15 years, but when I was in school and like living in Orlando and like studying theme parks and like working in theme parks, I mapped out, it kept growing because it was just based on my imagination. So it would probably, in today's dollars, would probably be a few $1 billion to build, but it was this massive destination resort on an island and had a lot of amazing immersive experiences and attractions in it.
That's cool. That's cool. Do you remember, like, can you describe maybe one of those immersive attractions?
I don't know. I haven't really told too many people about this, but okay, I'll give you one example.
Okay.
You know me, and those who know me know that I'm a big parrot head, so a big fan of Jimmy Buffett, and so one of the lands, actually, this is long before Margaritaville became this multifaceted entity that now actually includes theme parks. I think in Biloxi, Mississippi, there's a Margaritaville park. I think it's mostly a water park, but I had a ride based on a song called Jolly Man Sing, which is this narrative story, and it's beautiful and it's soft and it's very slow moving, but the song itself tells this story. So it was a dark ride that goes through the scenes of the song, and there's some elements of it where the song kind of picks up and feels a little faster paced. So at some point you feel like you're moving faster, you're going slower, and there's a dolphin chasing you, and so that was one of the attractions that I envisioned. Yeah.
Do the guests have to wear a parrot on their head?
They don't have to, but it certainly
would that enhance the experience?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So go ahead.
Well, the reason why I ask this is because of today's guest, Massimiliano Freddi. He is the founder and owner of Wonderwood Park in Italy, and I feel like he's just like us. He was an enthusiast. He loved the industry. We talk about what really got him into the industry and how he started working in the industry. And he said every enthusiast dreams of opening their own park. And so we really get to unpack and peel back the onion, as we like to say, as far as what that process is really like to look at this industry from the lens of entrepreneurship on the side of the operator and developing a new park that just opened a few years ago, and to talk about the challenges along the way of the first season being very rainy and the second season being a pandemic, and the resistance that it really takes to take on this endeavor.
Well, and he talked about resistance from his own perspective as well, right? You know, kind of overcoming his own resistance and the resistance that comes from, you know, taking on such a large endeavor. But I was also really intrigued to hear him talk about not only the challenges, but the opportunities that he turned some things into, right? You know, in terms of getting his staff and, you know, creating the experience, and then what it was like to actually open it up. And to your point, like it was raining, and how do you pivot from that and create, you know, new experiences, or, you know, just even new outlooks, and how do you not succumb to the resistance of your own feelings to be able to overcome that and figure out a way forward and not just kind of throw in the towel. So Massi's very inspirational. So if you don't know him yet, you will get to know him very well through this interview. And I would say that, you know, if you are thinking about opening your own park, he'll give you maybe some reasons to caution yourself, but also he doesn't shy away from saying, you know, it can be a very inspirational process.
Yeah. He talks about the importance of the word inspiration, particularly when compared to the word education, really tying into the fact that not only is he the owner of Wonderwood, but he is also the second vice chair for IAAPA. So if all things go well, then at the end of 2024, he will take on the chair position of IAAPA.
Which is really cool to see so many people get, you know, from around the industry that get the opportunity to do that, to lead the organization. And I really loved what he had to say, and I won't give too much of it away, but, you know, in terms of his mark on the industry, really, you know, focusing on, you know, new people coming in and building the bench strength that we have, and, you know, finding those folks that have the passion that you and I have, and that Massi has, and that so many people have for the industry. And how do we cultivate that passion so that they turn into the next generation of leaders?
Mm-hmm. We've been using the word cultivate.
We have.
So
we have.
Yeah, so we could talk all day and break down this interview that we had with Massi, but I think we should get right to it.
Let's do it.
Hey, Massi, welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast. We are so excited to have you on today. How are you?
Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Matt. I'm doing very good.
Excellent. Glad to hear. So to kick this off, Massi, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself? Give us a quick intro and tell us about your career. Okay.
So when you say quick, do you mean 2 hours, 4 days? Like what do you really think? Okay. So I've been a child that was deeply in love with the attractions industry. And I was born in a city which is Genoa by the sea in Italy. And I can tell you not a lot of people from Genoa really had ever thought about building a career in the attractions industry. And I would say even in Italy. So we are talking about the 90s, in the moment in which I was going to school, and I was like, okay, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, hey, I want to become the marketing manager of Disneyland Paris. So that was the kind of thing. And all of my friends would look at me like, okay, so no astronaut, no doctor, no lawyer, like, what is wrong with you, you know? And so this is what has happened in that very, very moment. I was in love with the industry. So I studied at a German school, so I'm pretty fluent in some different languages. And when I finished school, I decided to study marketing and public relation at University in Milan, where I teach right now. So it's also kind of a nice story. And my dream was about working for our industry. So in '98, I co-founded parksmania.it, which is the most important portal in Italy when it comes to parks and attractions. And then I've interned at Disneyland Paris for the Italian office. And shortly after that, I became press and PR manager, then marketing manager, then jumped into another park, which is Leolandia, very close to Milan. So another project where I've also worked. But hey, was it supposed to be a short introduction in the end? So let me jump into who I am right now, and then we can still connect some dots, you know, if we feel it's relevant. So in 2019, I've started my own park, which is called Wonderwood. It's on Lago Maggiore, which is a beautiful, stunning area in Italy, close to the border with Switzerland. And this is my main job, I would say, and my main responsibility. On top of that, I teach marketing and theme parks and attractions management at University in Milan, and we've recently developed a specialization for a master's degree in leisure destinations. So it's all about education and inspiration when it comes to that. And then I would say that my third pillar is I have been volunteering with IAAPA now for around 10 years, and I have chaired the EMEA education subcommittee for IAAPA, and then I've jumped on the board of directors, and now I'm second vice chair. So if I don't do too many things wrong, in theory, in 1 year and a half or so, I should become chairman for 1 year, but we'll see.
Well, we'll see. Well, I think you're on the right track, Massi. I would love to dive into all of that you just said, but what I really would love to do is go back. You said you from a young age, you've had a deep love of the attractions industry. How did that develop? Where did that come from?
That's a great question. So I really think it comes out of a terrible childhood. So sometimes some of us have a beautiful childhood and they go to parks and attractions with their parents and they will remember forever these moments. In my case, I had a very bad childhood. And so nobody would bring me to the parks ultimately, if not my grandparents sometimes. And so it was more of a place to refugee myself, I think. So as a kid, this looked like the perfect place, and it was Gardaland at that time. Gardaland is #1 park in Italy, one of the most important parks in Europe. And so I remember the sensation of entering Gardaland, which was a place where everything was just beautiful and people were so nice. And the entire thing, the entire atmosphere has made me fall in love with these places that were just perfect. And hey, what are we doing every day? We are really trying to create a perfect, seamless experience for all of our guests. You as designers, me as an operator, but it's a kind of same thing. So I really think that the origin was that one. And then when I grew up, some stuff have happened. So the same park, Gardaland, that I admired so much as a guest, when I was 10 years old, they kind of selected me as the perfect fan. And it came by accident. I called them one day to get an information. I was 10 years old, and we are talking about 91. So all of us remember very well, no internet, no WhatsApp, no smartphones, even no fax, I think, in 91, maybe. And so I raised my phone and I asked for a brochure and stuff, and they passed my call to a marketing manager of that time. And this lady, recognizing I was a kid, she was like, hey, a kid is calling us to kind of ask for information. And so she gave me that extra piece of care, I would say. So she wasn't just sending me a brochure. She was sending me plenty, of gadgets and gigs, and they would invite me to press events. And so that was even before fan communities existed in Italy. So I think this has shaped my faith in the industry. And this has definitely been the first moment in which I thought, hey, so there are grown-ups that are like good people that want to make good things for good kids. And I want to be one of these people. And so that's how it all started when I was 10 years old, I guess.
Wow.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that, for sharing that story. I would love to even, tie that into maybe kind of the origin of Wonderwood, and was this everything that you just shared with us, was this the reason for saying not only getting into the industry, which you knew at a young age that you knew you wanted to do that, but then to open your own park and your own venue to be able to carry out what you saw was so important. You talk about your faith in the industry, and I love just hearing that. That's just sounds so amazing. So as far as being able to now really give that back to, I guess maybe what you craved as a child.
Yeah, that's interesting, because if I had to find the roots. Or the path leading to Wonderwood, in fact, I need again to go quite back. And I think I've always dreamed to open my own park. But hey, again, every attraction enthusiast dreams to, in a way or another. I didn't have the possibility from a family standpoint, so I didn't have the money to put in or anything. So it took a while. And definitely, I think I have convinced myself, maybe for 30 years or so, that this was never going to happen. So that this was a child dream, but then this wasn't the case. When I started to work for Disneyland Paris, which, I mean, if you can ask somebody what is the biggest dream, hey, let's do that. I was 23 years old when I became press manager at interim for the Italian market of Disneyland Paris, so I was pretty young. And just to give you an idea, in Italy, it's strongly unlikely you will get a manager position under your 30s. So it was something really, really unusual. I spent 4 years with the Walt Disney Company. It was a mind-blowing experience. I still love all the people, and the product was stunning. But I understood after 4 years that I was too far away from the product itself. So as a child who kind of dreamed about becoming maybe more an Imagineer, that was so far away. So when I met Zamperla and they have hired me to become general manager assistant at Leolandia, at that moment I was 27, I quit Disney after 4 years, big Disney, to go to very small Leolandia that has just restarted. It was an old park, bit shabby, before Zamperla purchased it. And so in that moment, my point was I want to get closer to the product. And this has happened, and I've been general manager. Then I became general manager after roughly 1 year, and I was there until 2014 as a general manager, and then VP of strategic development. So with my team, with kind of make the park jump from 200,000 guests up to almost 1 million. So big thing. But the point again, when I quit Leolandia, I quit not because I was searching for another job, but because I thought that my mission there was accomplished. And then I consulted for a few years, but I felt the strong nostalgia for the place, the physical place, and the best moment of them all, when you are at the turnstiles, at the exit on a Sunday afternoon, everybody is leaving and you can see their faces. And you see how, tired and happy they are. And so I think that this gave me, again, the thought about, hey, I could do something on my own. And that was the moment with my husband when we weren't actively searching, but on Lake Maggiore, which is in the town of where my great-grandmother was born, so over 100 years ago. And we have a small home here. And there was this opportunity of taking part to a tender to operate a restaurant. The point is, I love to eat. I might love to cook, but to operate a restaurant, that's no fun. Okay, let's ask everybody. That's no fun at all. Okay, very labor intensive, lots of things that happen all over the place. And so as a provocation to the mayor at that time, I said, hey, we could decide to apply to the tender and operate the restaurant if you allow us to build a park. And I thought it was a nice joke. It wasn't a joke, because in the end we won the tender, and so they all stared at me like, okay, so now you're going to open the park. And it was October 2018, and the rule of the tender said we had to open the restaurant by March 2019, after 5 months. So we said, hey, now we need to design the park, we need to do everything we can. And so in the end, we've opened Wonderwood in the summer of 2019. And to wrap up this story, I really think that the reason why of Wonderwood is, again, creating a safe and beautiful place where people go home better than in the way they arrived. And so that's about being more connected with the people they love, feeling more brave, really relaxed, and just also more connected to their deepest selves, which is something that I truly am passionate of. And so I think that Wonderwood was born because of this. It's not a point about which attractions, how many rope courses, or is the food good. All the elements play together this role in provoking these beautiful and happy faces when people leave at the end of the day.
Now, Massi, I thought I loved the industry, but you're making me fall in love with it all over again. Just hearing you talk about Wonderwood. Can you describe a little bit about the experience at Wonderwood, like from the guest perspective?
Definitely. So the idea there, again, is, you must be very familiar with adventure parks, so the ones with rope courses or zip lines, okay? And I would say the vast majority, you can have, 1 rope course, 20 rope courses, whatever, but it's all about climbing, In our case, my point was there is in Italy, and just very few in Europe, there are no parks where kids can play as if they were young rangers. Now, I need your help on translating a thing. Okay. So when I was a kid, from the imagination of Karl Barks, there was not only Uncle Scrooge, but there are, of course, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, that sometimes they go on this kind of scouts camp. I don't know how it's called in the US. And they have, you know, these hats with the fur around the heads. And I don't know what's the name, but in Italy, it's Giovani Marmotte, it's called. So it's like this scouts club. And my point was, if Huey, Dewey, and Louie could design a park, how would they design that? So this was the starting point. It's not about doing the tallest, fastest, biggest thing. It's about saying, how many adventures can you try for the first time if you are a kid? First adventure, you have a park that is in an enclosed space, but big enough for you to feel adventurous and for your parents to relax, drinking an aperitivo while you are playing and running around without you getting lost or any risk for you to go back to the road. At the same time, you have mini Land Rovers to drive. You have a work site in which you as a kid can dig stuff. You have the area where you can I don't know the English words, when you can find the minerals in the water, and you can kind of pan for gold and for minerals. You have a very huge playground. You can start your own journey hiking on the mountain with the Gruffalo. So the idea was, how many adventures can kids try for a first time in their lives? And I would say our park is a park of the first times. So a park where every kid, and mostly kids who live, for instance, in Milan. Milan is less than 2 hours away from us. Now, think about it. If you've been growing up in Milan, I think it's about like Manhattan. So it's strongly unlikely you've ever seen a cow, you know, or you've ever climbed on a tree. So the point is, how can we make these things accessible in a way that kids can play, learn, get dirty, sweat, have fun, and go home with a bit more of braveness, because they managed to do that. It's not us putting them on a roller coaster with restraints and everything, and then the coaster is moving you. Here, everything you do, you need to do it yourself. So that is kind of the experience we are trying to work on in Wonderwood.
I love it.
Massi, you talked about, you said, every enthusiast dreams of building their own park, opening their own park. And from someone who has said it's not just a dream, it can truly be a reality. Can we talk about maybe just what the development process was like and those challenges along the way? You even talked about kind of, getting the approval from the city and opening the restaurant, but then it sounded like a lot of things happened to happen really fast. So can you talk maybe about sort of what it was like? I would say just building it, those challenges that maybe a lot of people really take for granted when they go visit a park that is done and clean and beautiful and in their eyes perfect.
Yeah, so it's a very nice question, and I would really love to say that if you are dreaming about opening your own park, don't do it. No, that's a joke. Everybody says, I was telling this story in 2019 when we first opened, and it was true. The first year was terrible. It was awful, and it was awful because whatever you do, you will be overwhelmed with the complexity of something you've never tried. You've never tried it, even if you were general manager of a big corporation, because when you start your own venue, you're not structured enough, you're not savvy enough, you think you know it all. It's not true. So the first thing that I would love to tackle in this conversation is resistance. And Seth Godin calls it the lizard brain. And so I have coached for Seth Godin for several years, and he's a great guy. And he kind of was my inspiration all the time. I don't know if you're familiar with his books, The Purple Cow, and This is Marketing and everything like this. So when Seth talks about resistance, he really nails it when it comes to the fact that, first of all, you need to choose yourself. You need to pick yourself. And there is one day in which you need to decide that tomorrow will be different. And it will be different because you will sign something. You will sign a paper, you will apply to a tender, you will say yes. And in the moment in which you say yes, then you can say no again. Once you see, you can't unsee. So the first challenge for me and for my husband was to say, do we really want to risk no longer having our consultancies and our things that they're not as granted, but you are used to the mechanism. So are we really up for that? So the first challenge to overcome was definitely resistance. And resistance pops in every time, of course, we are afraid. Sometimes we are prepared for a bigger leap to happen. But even right now that the situation is a good situation and it's more stable and things are going well, there are days in which I feel this resistance and I feel like I'm trying to preserve the status quo in which I am rather than taking new risks. But nobody pays us and will pay us to preserve the status quo. And the sooner we get this, the better it is. So after saying, let's go against resistance, the first thing was, where do we get the money? And we didn't have the money to do that thing. But again, I think that, the Silicon Valley is proving it every day. But let's say that even now in our smallest places and companies, if the idea is good, which means not only you believe in the idea, but you are doing the homework, then you find people that will give you the money. It might be the banks, it might be private investors. Now the point is, you need a good idea, but then you also need to have a very strong plan about the execution. So in our case, of course, I brought with me 15 years of experience, which was, of course, useful, which was useful. But I think that in that moment, we were just, how can I say, so brave that we were very superficial. And so we got the money, and when you ask for the permits, and we got them, and everything seemed pretty smooth until we've opened, and then something happens. For 3 months in a row, we had almost every weekend rain. So we have planned for the best, which is we execute the work site, we open it up, we find the staff members, and in 4 years, you have been hearing this all over the place. It's much harder to find staff members. It's much complicated. We are in the middle of nowhere, 1,000 meters above a lake, where the nearest highway arrives 1 hour and 10 minutes away from us. Okay, so no trains, no buses. So if you want to come to work here, you must be really motivated, even as a guest. So I think that we underestimated the possibility that things could go wrong from an operational standpoint. For instance, rain. If we had considered this, we would never have opened. So thank God we have not considered this. And then we had, of course, to find solutions, and very creative solutions. Financially, of course, and with suppliers and renegotiating things and so on. Now, if you think that we've opened the park at the end of July 2019, so imagine August, September, then the season was over. What has happened afterwards? The C word. So COVID. So all of a sudden, the thing was so much bigger than us. But let's say that then in the end, in the long term, we've solved the money thing. And we started, of course, to make money and keep the ball rolling. And then we wanted to invest more. So money is never enough. But so I understood one thing. I've learned this. Money is never a problem. This is not the problem. The problem is, are you proposing to the guests a thing they will like? And the thing they will remember, and the thing they will want to repeat and pay for? That's a whole different thing. Money is a consequence. So I go to my last point in that, which is relevancy. And relevancy has two aspects. The first aspect is, of course, the product and the experience. And sometimes we as creatives, we love our ideas. We fall in love with our ideas so badly, don't we? And even big groups, sometimes they make huge mistakes just because we think so much about our creative aspect, and we don't think, and we are not empathetic enough to what people really are able to fall in love with. I would use this as word, to fall in love with. And then the other thing is that people have not been waiting their entire lives for you to open your venue. They already have busy lives. They already have their habits, and they already allocate their money in some buckets. And so the point, I think, if I could go back, so one key learning about my first year of opening, I should have invested 3 times as much in marketing. But I had spent so much on the structure that I cut on marketing. And this is the mistake that everybody has been doing while opening new venues. You run out of money or you spend more money on the development than expected, and you need to cut on costs from day one. Where do you cut first? You cut on marketing. And the point, though, is that the faster you are in bringing people on board, so inside the gates, so the fastest you are in this, and the better it will be for your business from day one. And so we strongly underestimate that in the end, we could make the most beautiful place, very attractive and so on, but we need to get people in as fast as we can at the beginning, because they will spread the word. And then, of course, we can benefit from word of mouth. But I think this was a key learning to me.
Yeah. Well, Massi, can we kind of tap into something you talked about earlier, which was your desire to get closer to the product? And certainly opening a park, you're very close to the product. Was the initial reaction from the guests what you had hoped it would be, thinking about their experience and what you had envisioned for that experience?
Wow, that's a beautiful question. So we landed in an area where there are no competitors and not a lot of attractions. So the first thing is that many people started to say, hey, finally there's something to do. And that was quite good. Then we understood that we have some stunning things, like, you have this climbing park with a view that's overlooking the lake on 1,000 meters. So it's very beautiful. But at that time, we only had 4 rope courses. So not a lot of stuff to do. So I think that if on the one hand, they were really emotional about having something, I think that in the end, the experience was short. So what we decided, and this is the moment in which it got reinforced, our idea of saying, hey, we need to have several adventures, smaller adventures, but then the point is not coming to our place for the rope courses. You will come to our place because you want an adventurous day. And so I think that in that moment, there was no real disappointment from the people, but it was more, this kind of feeling, when you are going to a beautiful restaurant, the food is good, but you have the feeling you haven't had enough food. Okay. You still go home a bit hungry, and some people appreciate that, but most of the people, they will love to go home by saying, hey, I've had too much food. It's like feeling this kind of being full. But this has also stretched our muscles in saying, are we a park behind our gates, or are we just gates to the entire mountain? So what if our park was a starting point, the welcome center for the exploration of a much bigger area? And what if we added this to our product? And so I think we've reframed that. And so right now, if I take a comparison with other friends who have adventure parks alike, the average dwell time is like around 2 hours and a half, more or less. Because if you do rope courses, after a while, even if you have 200 rope courses, your muscles hurt. So you are not there to spend 5 hours climbing, okay? So in our case, our average is around 5 hours and a half, wow. Which means that people understood what we do stand for. We stand for with a day with the people you love. And during this day, we promise to give you the best possible food. The food is amazing, outstanding. We prepare everything fresh. A solid value system. So about sustainability and about diversity and inclusion and everything, it's incorporated in our DNA from scratch. Third thing, it's a beautiful place you can't get enough of, because it's just beautiful by itself. And you can relax, and you can play, and you can challenge yourself, and you can walk, and you can fall asleep. We even have sundeck chairs, because we thought not everybody who goes to rope courses wants to climb. And not everybody wants to stay there just the entire time for climbing. So we have a pretty high per cap when it comes to food, for instance, because people feel the place is just a beautiful place to spend time. So So I think this was kind of our pivoting, strategy. It's not just about the attraction, but it's something else, so much more.
I love hearing just all of that and just the mindset behind it and everything that you are delivering beyond the product that people think they're coming for, the ropes course, the mountains, all of that, but being kind of the ecosystem around it, the time with their family and all of that. You talked about the importance of word of mouth and the importance of bringing people in as quickly as possible so they can help spread the word. I'm curious, really, from the lens of marketing, as far as the importance of word of mouth, and if we can kind of follow that trail as to how that maybe alleviates your marketing efforts. Of does it reduce the cost of acquiring a new guest, and then really, I would say, kind of building that advocacy effect, and how that turns back into revenue and higher attendance for the business.
Yeah, so let me mention a few examples that are not from my park. If I tell you Evermore, or if I tell you Sleep No More in New York City, there are places and situations where people get just blown away by the quality of the time they have spent there, by finding the unexpected, by exceeding their expectations. So first of all, I think that we should invest even more in our products and experiences and in our team members and in making the experience smooth, seamless, qualitatively high, because we have this huge opportunity and responsibility of changing a day. We own that day of someone's life. And while we own and operate that day, we're not operating the venue. We are operating their free day, their free time. And if we are able to continuously be critical with ourselves, and so we all want reassurance. So I love when we receive, 5 stars reviews. I'm not growing for that. I'm just growing my ego, and feeling less of an imposter and feeling that, yeah, we got that right. But the point is, what are the unsung voices, the voices we can't hear, that are telling us, yes, but? What is behind that but? So I think that if we continue to stay in a strong relationship with this part, I think there is a huge space to leap. So this leads to the word of mouth. While I was working for Leolandia, now I go back to kind of 10 years. We were at the beginning of this new startup again. It was a park that had existed since the 70s, and it was a miniature park at the beginning. Very fun in the 70s and 80s, but then can you imagine how boring it was in the 90s and the 2000s to bring your kids just in a miniature park with nothing moving, nothing happening. You're just looking at small Italian monuments you already know, by the way. So that's the thing. So when Zamperla relaunched the park, their point was about adding rides. And as much as I loved Alberto and he loved me, we were in disagreement sometimes, because for me, the experience was not just about the rides. The rides were a big part. But of course, there was the storytelling, and there was another thing that he truly cared for, which was people. So engaged team members. Now, I remember one Sunday in which it was, I don't know, May, so perfect spring, perfect weather, sun is shining, and so on, and the park was empty. And you can't explain why. And we've all been through this sensation. When you are an operator, these days happen, and you don't have an explanation. But on that day, I spent time in going through the reviews on TripAdvisor. That was very hip. Right now we are more Google Maps, but at that time, TripAdvisor was the Bible. So I would go there and I would see we had 4 out of 5 as a rating. And so I started to say, oh yeah, that's pretty good. Given that the park used to have, 3 or 2.5 before. So we took a leap. And then I started to take a look at the other parks that I admired. And they all had 4.5 out of 5. So that 0.5, it changed everything. And now we talk a lot about net promoting score, but that's the thing. So if you have an experience that's under 4.5, which is 9 out of 10, so if you're not giving a 9 or a 10, your experience might still be good. But once you finish it, the first thing you will do will not be to reach out to your friends and say, hey, you must do that. You will answer if asked. You will say, we spent a nice Sunday. Fair, yeah, beautiful, nice. Kids had fun. Full stop. So the point is, the only way in which we can make our audience grow and our business grow is to reach this 4.5 out of 5. And not because we are forcing people to give us good reviews, but because we are kicking out of the park. So we are really doing something that's more than they had paid for, more than they had expected. And you know how often right now we go to restaurants and even to parks, we must admit, where we pay a lot and we don't feel they are giving us enough back. Okay, so of course, if we were there as kids, we still have our childhood that pays, that is kind of part of the experience. But right now, there are big parks that are becoming so expensive and the experience is so full of queue lines and everything you need to pay additional fees and so on, that people start to go home not upset, but they didn't fall in love. They are more like, okay, I'm not sure I want to spend my money again in this way next time. And so I'm not sure I will tell it to other people. So if you ask me if there was a way, if I have my genie lamp of Aladdin, I would really say I would love to have right here and right now more money to hire more people to work in the park and deliver like a 5 stars experience every day, all the time, because I think this is the thing that changes it all.
You know what's so interesting, Massi, is in one of my previous roles at an organization, I was talking to the vice president of operations, and he said, I would love to do an experiment and have an attraction where we could do exactly what you just said, right? You know, unlimited budget, have as many people as we could and just see what that's all about. And of course, I'm thinking in my mind, you're the vice president of operations. You could make that happen. Like you're the one that could do that. But you know, I think it goes back to what you talked about a couple of minutes ago in terms of resistance, right? He wasn't willing to kind of take that risk and go past that. So I love all those things that you're saying. And again, it's making me fall in love with the industry all over again, just hearing your passion and all the wonderful things you're saying. But I'd love to maybe change course just for a second and talk a little bit about your role within IAAPA, because you said in about a year and a half, you're going to be taking over. So as long as you don't do too many things wrong, I think you said.
Yeah.
but
I get too scared and I run away, but no, it shouldn't happen.
I don't anticipate that happening, but I would love to hear, like, as someone who is anticipating coming into that role, first of all, what's that anticipation like? And also, when you get there, what's your vision? Like, what do you think would be something that you could put your stamp on and say, you know, Massi was here. This is how I've had a positive impact.
Wow. So first of all, being in love with the industry, when I was a kid, let's say, or a young adult, I felt scared by IAAPA. You know, IAAPA was this big thing, this big whale that incorporates a ton of things, and that is ultimately for real professionals. So when is the moment in which you consider yourself for the first time a real professional? And it has taken a bit of a time. And then, like many people in the industry, I started to be a member for the company I was working for that I enrolled. But still, I was feeling a member of a company who is a member. And I think that at that time, it wasn't easy to understand also that IAAPA really is based a lot on member engagement, which means that many members can volunteer from the moment in which they are students already, and they can be ambassadors on the trade show floors, to the moment in which they could be part of committees, subcommittees, lead task forces, whatever it is. So it's a real member-based organization. So it all happened a bit by accident. So I was invited to talk for a safety conference. about a nice project for kids with disabilities we had done in Leolandia. And coming out of the stage, the education manager of the MEA region at that time, Cindy Stefanovic, she was like, but you should be part of the committee. And I was like, committee? What is a committee? What is it for? You know? So it started with all this. I wasn't sure I would even apply to become a second vice chair. So IAAPA works that you apply to become the second vice chair. And then again, if you don't do terrible things, the year after you are first vice, and then you are chairman, and then you're past chair. And then you jump into the governance committee. So it's almost an 8 years term, which is pretty long. You know, even the 4 years would be pretty long. But I didn't apply. I had never applied because I felt like an imposter. Like, who am I to apply? What do I have to contribute with? There are so many talented people in our industry, and with such wisdom and experiences and leadership. So the point was, I really didn't feel talented enough, and I even didn't know if I would ever be. And then there were several people that were either part of the board or had been part of the board, and they were like, you could be a good chairman. Okay, so I had, first of all, again, to win over my resistance, and so to acknowledge that I could give myself a chance. I could pick me, and then, you know, if it was a go, it would be fantastic. If not, whatever. But as much as it happened with my part, I was not, I think, fully aware of what the role was about. So I had been part of the board for 4 years already at that time, so I knew quite a little of what are the discussions ongoing, but of course you don't know that the different things. So right now, as a second vice chair, I really appreciate it, and I share it with everybody, because I think that every association should be like IAAPA in this way. So they don't put you in the situation where you are chairing for 1 or 2 for 3 years, coming out of the blue. You go through this kind of path. So the first year, all of a sudden becoming an officer meant I would attend meetings that I maybe was even not aware they existed. And I could just listen. And I could just take the risk of being myself and ask questions if I had to. And again, just listen. But what is really fun is that I'm still the second vice chair. So this 1 year, which is not yet come to an end, I still have it's 5 months in front of me. So I'm half the way. It feels like 5 years already. So what is really fun? It's very intensive. You have calls, you have meetings, and so on. You don't have responsibilities, extra responsibilities right now, as you would have to be an ordinary board member, but you're already exposed so much to so many stimulus, to so much. And I think I'm really learning a lot. So when it comes to what will be my mandate, what is my goal? I think I am obsessed by 2 themes. One theme is that I disagree with the word education, but I agree with the word inspiration, because education, of course, it's a duty that everybody has in the room, and you need to be driven by your will to be educated and to educate yourself. But what can IAAPA and what can professionals like us who have been in the industry for a while, what can we do for other professionals? And you do it with your podcast all the time. We can inspire people. And then maybe they will pick up 1 sentence from a 1-hour interview, or sometimes this will resonate with them so much that with every word, they're just taking notes, and it blows their mind because they needed that gentle nudge in that moment, and we gave it to them. And I think that at IAAPA, inspiration should be exactly like this. We should be in the places where members are, young members, old members. We all have to learn, and we all are learning new things. If you are savvy about TikTok, let me know, because I'm really ignorant when it comes to that, and several other things. AI will be a big thing. So I think that IAAPA is a place, of course, to connect a network, but I feel it as a place to inspire. And you get inspired when you feel, in a way, when you feel safe, when you feel home, when you feel that the language other people speak is the same. So one point to me will really be, how can we make education even more accessible, even more part of the daily life of IAAPA and its members? And this connects immediately with my second goal, which is not second by importance, it's really at the same time, and it is the new generation of professionals. So right now, we will be facing a huge crisis of well, like the church, they can't find priests. And by the way, for us, it's becoming so hard to find people working in kitchens, at attractions, as lifeguards, as marketing managers, whatever it is, So I think we need to start very early to be connected with schools and colleges, so much more than we are doing right now, and to make sure that kids and teenagers and young adults, they are aware that there is an industry that is as important as the hospitality, as whatever the chemical industry, as a transportation industry, whatever. We are an industry, and I think we need to make sure they know about us. And on the other hand, we need to make sure we have always our ears open and eyes wide open to welcome all the new talents, all the people that want to enter this industry and contribute to that. So I think I will be happy if by the end of 2026, which is when I step off, I will be very happy if we will have managed to involve so many more young people, and if we will have been able to inspire so many beautiful places and people and lives to become their best selves when it comes to profession and human beings.
Massi, this has been such a fascinating conversation, and I just looked at the time, and I feel like our time, we just blinked, and our time is coming close to an end here, which makes me sad. I feel like we could keep talking for hours and hours and hours, and hopefully one day we'll get the chance to. In the meantime, though, if people want to learn more about Wonderwood, if they want to get a hold of you directly, where would you send them?
Yes. So first of all, of course, they can go on the website wonderwood.it, where is Wonderwood and our word. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn, which is also a great way, or on Instagram and Facebook as well. But I would really love to give my email address, which is Massimiliano. Now, if you spell it correctly, I will answer for sure. So Massimiliano.Freddi with an I at the end. And that's my last name, not my first name, which is also fun. So Massimiliano.Freddi@gmail.com. I will be more than happy to hear from you. And I really hope that this conversation was at least entertaining.
Well, I think it was beyond entertaining, and to me personally, it was inspirational. So I thank you for that. I also think you'll probably inspire a lot of people to reach out to you and learn more. And like Josh said, I wish we could talk for days. Massi, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm so glad that we're able to do it. And for everybody out there who's watching and listening, just remember, we are all attraction pros. Thanks for listening to the Attraction Pros podcast.
Make sure to subscribe so you can tune in when new episodes release, and even better, please leave us a review on iTunes.
For more information, visit attractionpros.com.